The roads are congested as ever. The car as we know it today presents an ecological and spacious problem. To avoid these things in the future, Clement Rogelj from Voego Mobility Lab is going to present us with different transportation options that are already available to the public. Welcome. What is your view on the problem?
Let me illustrate it with an example. The average person flies with airplane a few times per year, but for that he doesn't need to own an airplane. Instead, he's using mobility services offered by airlines. Why? Well, because owning an airplane would be extremely expensive and inefficient. Generally, ownership is expensive from economical and ecological perspective. The average person in Slovenia spends more than 1/4 of his monthly budget on a vehicle, which he is then using less than 5% of its time.
Quite an interesting problem. Let's see it more in depth.
Nowadays, we're all used to the typical image of the streets filled with cars of all kinds. Back in the day, the automobile was a great invention and nobody anticipated the new level of issues we would run into with the automobile-based transportation. Now, a car is rather only a tool to get people from A to B. Besides increasing pollution issues, each year drivers in major cities like Los Angeles spend an average of 102 hours stuck in traffic. The average speed of cars in the cities has dropped to 13 kilometers per hour. Traffic is so congested that the average speed of the carriages which were used back in the days were actually faster. What is the point of having a car when most of the time it's spent stuck in the traffic instead of moving? What can we do to ease traffic congestion? A logical thought would be to build more roads to accommodate the vehicles on the road, so everyone gets more room to drive. As simple as it may sound, the sad truth is it won't work. Building more lanes will only increase traffic. This phenomenon is called induced demand, which means people demand more when supply increases. In other words, more lanes will result in more traffic. The lanes are not the ones to blame, but the cars on the road. Why don't we take those cars off the road? Today, with the spread of shared mobility services, mobility is undergoing a series of disruptive changes. The new shared mobility services provide various modes of transportation: kick scooter, bicycle, car sharing, buses, and most of them are based on electric mobility, which means lesser air pollution and better air quality for everyone. With the shared mobility services promise of a more effortless, on-demand and less troublesome way of commute, it has become a trend that people are ditching cars and picking up the car-free lifestyle. Owning a car as the mainstream trend is out, and getting around in the city with an easier, cheaper and most importantly greener way is in.
Quite an interesting problem. What is MaaS?
Mobility as a service is not even a new invention. With new digital technologies and mobility services, we can fulfill our mobility needs without the cost and burden of ownership. Through our smartphone, we can check which mobility options are available to us, and we can seamlessly pay for them. Great local example is Avantogo, Bicicloja and others. I believe that when we as a society will fully embrace mobility services in our everyday life, we will discover that we don't need more vehicles or more roads. All the infrastructure is already in place. We just need to find and optimize the usage of it.
So how do you see the mobility in Slovenia changing for the past few years?
Well, historically, Slovene people have always been in touch with the nature. But even here, owning a car became overly dominant. This led up to a point where we have daily congestions in and around Ljubljana. And people are starting to realize that maybe this is not the best solution after all. Luckily, you see positive trends through the last year, with more and more cities like Ljubljana transforming their city centers into pedestrian zones and giving space from cars back to the people and increasing the quality of life.
All right, so let's now check what the general public thinks about the current situation. What outlook do you see for Slovenia?
We are often reminded that Slovenia is one of the smallest countries in the world, but still we are not realizing that our small geographical size can be also our greatest strength, because it is enabling us to be fast and agile. Speed is exactly what you need to become a leader in highly technological world, and Slovenia has unique advantage in many aspects to become testbed for global innovation. And regarding our mobility, I believe we are in an important crossroad right now. Now is the time to decide, will we solve our morning congestions around Ljubljana on the ignorant and primitive method, with adding extra lane to the highway, or we will start using digital, optimized public transport with other mobility services. Hopefully we will choose the second option, and our future will be electric, autonomous and digitalized.
All right, thank you for your time and thorough explanation. And to you viewers, think about the transportation for your next destination.